In 2013, Jesus transformed my entire life. Growing up, I was an agnostic. I had gone to church before. I'd been to churches before. I had friends that were the goody two-shoes that were Mormon that I didn't typically like hanging out with them because it just, I don't know, I always felt like it was just a very judgmental atmosphere. It wasn't my thing. Let's see, and I don't know, I didn't have fun hanging out with that crowd. So I typically hung out with the other friends who were doing other more fun things like horses and drinking. I was drinking before I was 21. I don't remember what age I was when I started drinking. I think I was 16. Definitely before graduation, so it had to be around there. If not a little sooner. Sorry, Mom. If you didn't already know that. I did not obey my mom at all. Don't know if I said that already. But I was not a great kid. My mom had it rough with me. She had it rough with all of her kids. And I was not any better. So I go through school, teenager, rebellious, drinking, smoking pot all the time, sneaking out. There wasn't a lot of things to do in this small town, and so that was what we were doing. That was the thing we were doing. If you weren't a church kid, you were drinking and doing other things. So I always have had an obsession with space. I love space. I love galaxies. I love dinosaurs. I love learning about the things of history in the past, and I love facts. I love evidence of things. I've always been big on the evidence of things, and like throughout high school, I will say like one thing that always stuck out to me, even though I wasn't a believer, like I was very much an agnostic because I wasn't sure what to believe. One thing that always stuck out to me was the Big Bang never made sense. Like everything coming from nothing, and yet entropy exists. Nothing can create after another thing, so everything is stuck within its own branch of being. So like Darwinism, the evolution theory, it never made sense because like it was basically like if you dig up the bones of a Great Dane in one level of depth of soil, and then you dig up the bones of a Chihuahua in another level of depth of soil, you're going to say that that's evolution, that the dog evolved from one thing to another. The dog is still a dog, but they're saying, that in their evolution that the monkey became a man, but we still have monkeys and we still have men. And I know they've tried to conceive between the two, and guess what? It doesn't work. So it just doesn't work. It's never worked. You can't breed a dog and a cat together to get a feline dog. You can't breed birds with snakes. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Birds with lizards. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So I've always been on a very agnostic. I'm like, it just doesn't, none of it adds up. It doesn't add up. And so I just remained agnostic for I don't know how many years, obviously until 2013. So I graduated 2011. 2013 rolls around. I'm still a big smoker. I was kind of over drinking by then. I was like, I think that's the year I was going to be turning 21 actually. And I had my transformation before my 21st birthday, and I did not want to have my 21st birthday because of things we'll get into in a second. So the years go by, and by 2013, I'm living in a friend's house, and he actually had a Bible around, and he'd read the Bible, he said multiple times. This was actually the first time I had thought about religion for I don't know how long. I was not thinking about religion. So when I saw the Bible sitting around, that was the first time I'd really started thinking about it again, but not frequently, because we were still smoking pot, me and this roommate. We would smoke pot, and like he would say, he believed Jesus was a real person, but he did not believe God of the Bible. That was not his thing, but he thought the Bible was interesting, so he read it. I'd never read the Bible, just full disclosure. And I was dog sitting, and he was gone on a work trip, and I was bored wanting something to watch. And like I said, I love history. I love learning about things. I wasn't really thinking about God too much, but I also love animated movies. I've always been a huge fan of animated movies. And I've actually always loved the movie Prince of Egypt. And I never really thought too deeply about, like, the beliefs behind the Prince of Egypt and all that stuff. I just really enjoyed the movie. Amazing score, amazing animation. It was just beautiful. It's just a beautiful movie. So he's gone. I'm looking for something to watch. And I watched Prince of Egypt, and then I was looking for something else to watch, and I watched, they go together, just stay with me here. Prince of Egypt, Egyptian stuff, right? So there was a recommendation on Netflix, and there was this Egyptian history documentary thing about like Egyptian gods and hieroglyphs and ancient pyramids and all that stuff, and all the different stories of the Egyptian gods and whatnot. And so I watched it because I was curious, because I've always been curious about that kind of stuff. So I watch it, and by the time I get to the end of it, for the first time ever in my life, I'm really wondering what's real. Like, what is the truth? Because a lot of their inscriptions, their old stories is very similar to the things that of in Christianity, and like all these religions have very similar stories, but they're tweaked. Everything's got a tweaked aspect to it. Something is always changed, but there's always a similarity. And so I was like, was that thunder? Because that's going to mean something in a second too. Okay, so anyway, so I'm like realizing for the first time ever in my life that that I want to know what the truth is. And this basically was triggered by watching that movie, Prince of Egypt, and the Egyptian documentary about Egyptian gods within a small window of each other. And probably maybe even a little bit influenced by my conversations with the roommate about the Bible. So I'm like snowballing into turmoil. I'm like, what? I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what it is. But I knew my mom was a believer. I knew she was a believer in Jesus, that she believed the Bible was true. But I never like really talked to her about it. And I knew that my Nana, she was coming up to visit. And I was like, I want us all to watch Prince of Egypt together. Because I always love making my mom watch animated movies with me. That's just a thing I've always done. Because that's just my thing. So anyway, I was going to make them both watch the animated movie with me. I think it was about a week or two later that I was going to be up there at my mom's house. And it was on a night, there was a big thunderstorm, lightning storm rolling in. And we watched the movie Prince of Egypt, and my Nana goes to bed. And then it's just me and my mom upstairs. And I'm like, hold on, I want to show you something else, and I want to hear your opinion about it. So I show her the Netflix documentary. Not all of it, but I get far enough into it that I'm showing her like what's throwing me off, why it's confusing me. I'm like, look, all this stuff existed so many years ago. Like, how do we know what the truth is? How can you be so sure? Like, why are you so sure in what you believe? And anyways, she just said, she's always believed. She just knows that it's true, was basically the answer that she gave me. She just knew without a shadow of a doubt that it was true. And meanwhile, I'm getting physically upset because I'm in so much turmoil over the fact that I don't know what the truth is. I'm like, how can you be so sure? There's all this other stuff out there. Who knows what the truth is? And I'm like, I don't know if I was crying in front of her yet, but I was definitely crying that night from frustration of not knowing what the truth was. And while I was being, in my frustration, I was knees on the floor. I was knees to the floor, like banging on the floor, like, what is the truth? I don't know what the truth is, and crying about it. And like, she brought up a couple of books that she had of people who had near-death experiences, particularly there was one about a child who had a near-death experience, and she had brought those up for me to read, and then she ended up going to bed. I can't remember how the rest of our conversation went, after she told me that she just knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Bible was true and that none of what I had showed her affected her. That didn't help me at all because I was still in turmoil. Meanwhile, lightning is cracking across the sky. We can see it. We're in an upstairs, we call it the theater room or the man cave that was upstairs. And the lightning is cracking, thunder is booming, and I am bawling. I'm just in tears, distraught, because I want to know who is right, who has the truth, what is the truth, and I'm upset because I won't know. I'm basically coming to the realization that I won't know what the truth is until I die. And by then it could be too late, because depending on which truth you believe, that you could be in trouble, but depending on what's true, you could be in trouble. And at least that was my understanding of it at the time. So I'm like beside myself and I'm sobbing, and she goes to bed, and I am like, I read a little bit of one of the books about the kid. And I get a little bit into it and I put it down, and I need to sleep. I'm just exhausted and I'm upset. And I was sleeping on the couch that I'm looking right at the couch that I was sleeping on that day. And I was just so upset, and I laid my head down and I fell asleep. And one of my last thoughts was, I'm not going to know what the truth is until I die. Like, that was basically, I was coming to the acceptance that I was not going to know what the truth was until I died. Mind you, up until this point, I was still drinking. I was still smoking weed all the time. I had a sailor's mouth. I was, my dad has sworn, he says the F word every other word. And, so I've always I always was swearing all the time. So were my brothers. Like, that was just, I didn't think about it. It was just part of my vocabulary. Anyway, so I fall asleep and I have a dream. And I'm in this dream, and there's asphalt. Like, the ground is just completely black asphalt as far as the eye can see. The horizon merges into this bright blue sky like it's midday, but there's no sunlight. But it's lit like it's midday. And I'm swaying back and forth on this asphalt. And I'm swaying to this person who's a few yards in front of me, who's swaying in sync with me. And they have a weapon in their hand, and it's like an Egyptian weapon, like one of those curved scythe-type weapons. And I'm waiting for them to kill me. And I hear them say, "You're waiting for your time, but it's not yet." And after they said that, they threw the sword up in the air toward me. And I knew it was going to kill me. But I wasn't running. I wasn't running from it. And I'm watching this thing spin in the air. And as it's spinning, there's like a light reflecting off of it, as if there is a sun shining against it. There's no sunlight. There's no sun, but it's a bright blue sky. And there's a light reflecting off this sword or scythe or whatever it was as it's spinning toward me. And as it's coming up toward me through the air, I like put my hands up to my chest, like both on top of each other. My other hand's holding the phone. And I put my hands up to my chest. And I'm falling backwards because it's about to come up on top of me. I know it's going to land right in my chest. And I put my hands up to my chest and I start closing my eyes as I'm falling. And I just say, I don't know if this is word for word, but I do know that I said Jesus. And I said, "I'm ready, Jesus." I think I said, "I'm sorry." And then, "I'm ready, Jesus," right after that. And then my eyes close as I should have hit the hard asphalt that I was standing on. And in the moment that I said that, though, right before I closed my eyes, the sword or scythe became just the ball of light that was reflecting off of it. It was no longer a weapon. It was just the ball of light. And then my eyes closed. And as it should have struck me and I should have hit the hard asphalt, it was like I got caught in the palm of someone's hand is what it felt like. I don't know how you would understand how that feels until you feel it. That's just what it felt like. Maybe I knew. Maybe that's what had happened, is I got caught in the hand of God, and there was no hard asphalt. I was just caught, and it was like all of a sudden just peace. It was just peace washed over me. And that ball of light, like that's the scythe that became a ball of light, fell into my chest as I was caught. And it was just instant peace. And then I woke up, and I knew that the Bible was true. I knew that Jesus saved my life. Like, there was no more doubt in my mind. The doubt and the frustration and the fear that I fell asleep with, I woke up without it. I woke up knowing what was true. And guess what? I had zero desire to smoke weed anymore. Didn't want to do it. Did not want to smoke weed anymore. Had no desire to drink anymore. And in fact, for the first time ever, I just had this really big urge and hunger to read the Bible for the first time, because I'd never done it, and I wanted to read the Bible. And I went downstairs and I started asking my mom questions about it. I can't remember exactly what I said, but man, I really wish I remembered the exact day that was. But I know it was actually, I think it was sometime in the month of August. I'm almost positive it was sometime in August 2013, which ironically is exactly 12 years to last month, when something else happened to me. So that happened. And like a week after that, I realized, it took me about a week or maybe a few days to realize that I'd stopped swearing. So I wasn't swearing at all. No swear words were leaving my mouth. It just wasn't happening. And I had no desire to swear. I didn't want to start swearing again. I was just amazed and floored because I hadn't even noticed that I wasn't saying swear words anymore. Like, it just wasn't happening. And I started reading the Bible, and I wanted to get baptized. Like, all these things, amazing things started happening to me. There was one point where I was like, I started looking up testimonies on YouTube. I was so invested. I wanted to learn about all the evidence of the Bible and like things that could prove it to be true. And guess what? There's actually a lot of it. We don't get taught it in schools. It's out there. Look it up. It's amazing. It makes way more sense than the stuff that they try to teach you about the creation of everything in school. I will just say that much. There's much more concrete evidence to support the Bible than there is to support what they're trying to teach us in schools. So here comes the rain. Gosh, it's almost like it was meant to be. So it's taken me way too long to make this video because this was in 2013. A lot has happened since then. I spent oh my gosh, I became a Jesus freak. That's what, that was what it was called. Lost friends. But I didn't care. I mean, I did care, but I was okay. I was at peace with it. It hurt, but I was okay. And a couple of them did come back around. Thank God. But, they're still not believers, but I'm still praying for them one day. Let's see. So that's part one of my testimony. I do end up getting baptized at my mom's church that she was going to, where she ended up living at that time. And I actually got that church to start doing river baptisms because I asked them, I wanted to be baptized in a river like Jesus was. And so I actually wrote on their communication card my first time visiting, or it might have been my second time because I think I might have gone to a Christmas thing with my mom before that. But like an actual sermon, my first time going to a sermon at the church, I wrote on the communication card, I want to be baptized in a river. Do you guys do that? They got a hold of me and they and I got to be their first river baptism, and it ended up becoming an annual thing for them. Now they do it every year. They've done it every year since. So that was pretty cool. So that is part 1 of my testimony, and I will continue the next part in another video because it was way too long-winded the first time I recorded it, so I'm going to try and make it a little easier to digest. But thank you for sticking around this long. I hope this inspires somebody, anybody out there, like, to be curious, stay curious, and there's nothing wrong with asking for wisdom, for the truth from God. You know, you don't have to wait until you're perfect to come to him. I certainly wasn't. All I wanted was truth. All I was hungry for truth. Knock and the door shall be open to you. Seek and you will find. So, behold, the old has passed away. All things become new. Love you.